monument and then push them as far as they will go, and then they end up pushing themselves even farther to do big and great things. That's my SME. Now, we want to know about your SME. And in the Hitchhiker's Guide Through Innovation, what we do is pull a bunch of people together and push them beyond what they ever thought they could do. This is a point in our lives we can try to keep that I'm too young, I'm too old to know better. So we don't know better, then we can do anything. So I invite you to come and join our organization. We'll put you together, brainstorm, come up with ideas, and what we do is take people from brainstorm to business. Real business. It's not pretend. And we have a competition coming up right now for the elevator pitch. I'm going to tell you more about that soon, but it's a competition, which means that it has rules in which you have to go by. So read the rules if you want to win the competition. And if you want to do more than that, then come with us and we will take you on that adventure.
So as Travis mentioned, my name is Jim Baker, and my SME is finding the simplest path through a torturous jungle that is the commercialization of technology. And so to answer Travis's simple question of one of the objectives was to, what might the university have, so to speak, sitting on its shelf from a technological standpoint that someone might be able to turn into a business. And the answer to that question is here. So all of the technologies, which generally means a patent, but not necessarily as far as the database listing, can be viewed on this website. Just from a usability standpoint, it's sorted by category, so you can sort through the categories, or you can search, you can grab everything by using the wildcard. And everybody's thinking in their head asterisks, but the people that made this system did this. So if you search for that, you will get everything. So if anyone has questions as I'm going along, let me know. So the process, I had some discussion with Michelle about, if you find a technology here that you want to build a company around, we will provide you the legal right to use that technology, and probably what will happen is the first thing that we will do is create what's called an option to license agreement, which has relatively few terms. It's relatively unburdensome because you're not exactly sure where you're going to go, and we're not exactly sure where you're going to go. So we try to make it as simple as possible. We do this with private companies, new companies, and you if you want to start a company. So it says, we promise that for some period of time, say 9 months, 12 months, 15 months, we promise that we won't license this technology to anybody else, as long as during that time you promise to do some things that we talk about what makes sense. At the bottom line, those some things are diligently pursue commercialization of the technology. So we promise we won't entertain any other offers to license the technology during the time of the option agreement, and you work on moving the technology forward. At some point, once we have a little more confidence about where the technology is going, where the company is going, what the technology is worth, we would then write a license agreement which would provide you the formal legal right to commercially practice the technology in return for some financial consideration, typically in the form of a royalty. And that royalty will be on sales. So you will be either providing a service or selling a product that is based on the patent that, but for the license that we provide you, would infringe the patent. And so the royalty will be on the basis of sales of that service or that product. Everybody likes to know, what does this mean? The number, our typical royalty rate, if we have one, is on the order of 1 to 3%. Might be more on total gross sales. Could be less. It is some measure of the proportional value that the intellectual is not true. So I reference, so, you know, so this turns into technology. And the technology, ultimately, the transaction to put the technology in a private company's hands is license. That license generates a royalty. Okay? That royalty, let's say for, you know, my example is 3%. So that 1/3 applies to this number. So if someone invents a technology, the university gets 3% on sales, and then that goes to the inventor, their academic department, and the university. So somehow that number is often interpreted to say the university is going to take 1/3 of the company. But the company in this case, the company generates sales, right? 97% to the company, and 3% to the royalty. That the employment agreement does not apply to this number, it applies to this number. Any comments there?
So if I own 100% of the company, and I'm also the inventor of this, with this example, does that mean I get 97% of sales plus 1% of the royalty?
Generally, what we'll do functionally is we'll negotiate this royalty in a way, in that scenario, we would make that royalty 2%.
So it's the same,
It's the same thing.
Right. So it's 98 and 2
yeah.
instead of 97 and 3.
Rather than have us pay you and, or
Right.
you pay us and then us pay you, we just factor that into the royalty negotiation. And if you create something, and maybe to cover, and pardon my paranoia, but, you know, so there's, or my perception that paranoia exists, that there's a lot of people that believe if they're a student here, or if they're a faculty member here, or they're a graduate student here, and they create a company, we're going to take, by default, we're going to take this, or worse yet, we're going to take this, or we're going to take something. So how much, what does Clever Cloud pay the university in royalties?
Nothing.
Nothing. Do we have anybody else here?
What about G&A? We saw
G&A,
video.
0. GS Engineering, 0. There is a long list of, Bill Endres in the back from Endres Machining Innovations, and of the 5 product lines that EMI is pursuing, how many does Michigan Tech have an interest in? 1.5. Bill Endres is a faculty member pursuing commercialization of a series of technologies. One of those technologies was created at the university, and there's a royalty. Another one of those technologies was jointly created with his company personnel and with university personnel, and that's the half. So there's royalties on that, but the rate would reflect the fact that the company created it as well as the university. Bill created it outside of his capacity as a faculty member.
So generally speaking, how many opportunities exist at TechFinder that you have given?
There are 97 technologies, I think, listed on TechFinder right now. But I would say, if you find something, so TechFinder is, so what TechFinder represents is technologies that, so what happens is ideas come to our office, and we do a patent assessment and we do a business assessment. And if both those assessments are positive, we proceed with the patent file. Generally, if we do everything right and the world works and our crystal ball works the way that it's supposed to, there's a business case there and a good patent case there, and we license it, and the world's a great place. But we live in the real world, and so what happens from the time that we make the decision to file the patent and now is business dynamics change, technical realities change, various things change. So there's generally something wrong with this technology, at least from the time that we filed the application to now. We do have experience that certainly business dynamics change, technical dynamics change, but usually against our favor. Business dynamics can change in our favor. So whereas the technology was, so we could have a situation where we decided to file a patent application and it was a viable commercialization project. Things change, price of oil goes from resources from the federal government to pay our time to counsel others, advise others, at least, you know, the world according to us in terms of how to move the technology from here. So if you have questions or if you're looking for just a second or third or fourth or fifth opinion about how to get from here to there, feel free to come to us. We're not going to, if it's not a university technology, you can tell us what you're doing. We're not going to, we've talked to Adam about what he's doing a little bit. We're still not charging him. Somewhere there's some grand conspiracy cooking, I'm sure, to totally squash Clever Cloud. We just haven't found the right time to pounce yet. But no, we will not encumber your company with any bureaucracy or any institutional financial demands unless we paid you to do it or unless it was enabled by some shiny equipment the taxpayers paid for. But we're happy to give, we spend a lot of time with Travis. We spend about 20% of our time helping local technology companies.
So this is the process that we can help you with in the Hitchhiker's Guide, because we work in partner with Jim in his office in these steps and onto commercialization. So whether you have an idea or you want to find an idea, we can help you with that.
And Travis and Michelle both know how to get a hold of me if anyone has me need to in the future.
What I want to tell you today is 3 things, okay? 3 hints. So I'm going to start with hint number 1, which is very, very big, as you can see. It's going to get smaller when I figure out how to move this thing up.
Should be buttons on the top.
Hint number 1. Investors only care about startups that are going to grow. If there's no growth in your business's future, then why would an investor care about you? Right? Sure, you can go and you can take a technology that's trying to be commercialized and you can act as a broker for a transaction fee to try to get that done. That's one thing. But what if you want to build a business? Right? What if you want to build a business that's going to have, you're going to have employees, right? You're going to have infrastructure. You're going to have customers directly. Right? You're not just passing off a license here. You're actually building a business. Maybe an internet company. Right? You kind of want it to look like this. So, what do you want that linear line to represent? Anybody? Yeah?
Costs.
Your costs. What do you want the exponential line to represent? Sales. Right. And how about that cubed line?
Customers.
Your profits. Right? Isn't that the kind of business we're looking for? Yeah, your costs are going to be higher at first. But as your sales pick up exponentially, your profits grow cubed. What's a classic business that looks like that? Right? What's a classic business that looks like that? Google looks like that? I've looked at a lot of tech startups. Most of them look like this. Most of them have the problem, though, that the profitability doesn't cube, right? But that's the goal. So you got to think to yourself, how do I build a business where my costs are only going to go up linearly, but my revenues are going to go up exponentially? Right? What does a business like that look like? That's what you should be thinking about when you're coming up with your idea. You don't want a business that's going to start small and stay small. Nobody wants to invest in that. So hint number 2, be disruptive. So, I don't know if any of you participated in there was a pitch competition, sort of a competition last week or the week before. We had 3 Silicon Valley venture capital / angel investors come down and listen to some pitches, right? Were any of you there at that event? Right? What were some of the things that kept coming out of the mouths of these venture capitalists, right? Disruptive. Keep talking about disruptive technology, disruptive innovation. Well, what does that mean? Right? It's gotten to the point where the words are tossed around so much that they start to lose their meaning. established firms consider to be their most valuable, most profitable customers. Now, do you think that those companies are just going to sit back and allow you to go after their best customers? Or do you think they might want to retaliate? Do you think they might want to buy you out? Well, that would be the best case scenario. Maybe they just want to license your technology and use it. All right? But if you want to be able to get in the market and compete toe-to-toe with large companies and grow fast, then you need disruptive innovation. And this model is probably the quickest way to try to express it. Don't have time for a lecture here. Travis only gave me, I think, 5 to 10 minutes is what he told me. So this is the elevator pitch version of what disruptive technology is. If you think about the traditional performance dimensions of technology on this axis here, okay, and you think about time, disruptive technology or disruptive innovation, it comes from the bottom of the market. It has the lowest performing applications. It's catering to people who are just barely even customers. They just barely even know that they want to get that service, to get that product. And you know what? If you go after them, then the incumbents, the established firms, right, that are at the top, who are catering to the best customers, the most profitable ones, they'll leave you alone. And they'll allow you, because of the flaws that are created within the industrial system, to flourish right beneath their radar screen. And oftentimes, they can be toppled before they're even first on. You might be thinking about something like Netflix disrupting Blockbuster Video, right? Why didn't Blockbuster Video respond in a much stronger way than they did? Lots of good reasons. It has a lot to do with the business model that they adopted, the investments that they made them incapable of fighting back. So that's what you want as a disruptive innovator. You want to find that business that will allow you to make a dent in a big established market by coming in under the radar screen like a gorilla, right? A gorilla with a U. Right? The classic examples. Right? You've got the Xbox at the top of the market, taking the hardcore gamers with the best graphics and the best sounds, right? And who do you have creeping up underneath them? We, right? With your terrible graphics and your terrible sound and your poor gameplay, but some new dimension of performance that caters to a much wider audience, right? Children, elderly people, mothers at home, playing the Wii. None of them played the Xbox. It's too hardcore a game for them. And now what is your grandmother playing? Right? She's playing Rovio games and Zynga games on her iPad or something like that, right? But that leads me to hint number 3, the last hint. You know, don't be too hot. Everybody wants to be in the video game business. Everybody wants to be in the music business and in the movie business, because those are the hot businesses. Now, don't be the fool that goes into the hottest market where there are hundreds of others like you competing. That's a big mistake, right? Because in the end, you're going to have too many competitors, you're going to have low profitability, and your shot is much smaller because it's too darn hot. So go for something cold, right? This is low-tech stuff, guys. Right? Any developer, I used to be a software developer, so I know for a fact that this kind of thing can be done, you know, by a small team in a relatively small amount of time with relatively low investment. And it can get up and running and pick up steam quickly. That's the idea. So here's LegalZoom. Probably you've never heard of LegalZoom, but they're disrupting established legal firms. Okay? How are they doing it? By taking some of the simplest things that you can do with a lawyer, like filing for, basically to get your business license, or to file for copyright, or a patent, or a will, or any of these little simple transactions that you normally would have to go to a lawyer for and spend a bunch of money. Well, you can do it real cheap with their software. And their software is not that sophisticated. It's not invention. It's minor invention, if anything else. It's tweaking existing designs. How about Zipcar? What's so fancy about Zipcar? It's just a website. It's just a website with a bunch of cars attached to it that enable transportation in a way that hadn't been thought of before, or hadn't been implemented before. Right? It doesn't take any invention to do that. What about something like century. They're fighting wars with or fighting crime with guns instead of fighting crime with tech. So disruptive and innovative companies come in. LifeLock is a good example of one. There's several others. They come in at the bottom of the security market offering very inexpensive security services. They're probably more valuable than the security you get from paying your taxes for traditional protection, right? How about Trulia? You've probably heard of Trulia. Well, why would you hire an expensive real estate company that has the big MLS license, right? When you could do the whole transaction by yourself on this website, right? Instead of just posting a sign on your lawn that says, "Hey, buy my house," do it through Trulia, and you get yourself an audience that's growing to be on par with the size of the audience you would have gotten with MLS, all right, without the fees. So it's all about taking these traditional low-tech industries and finding a way through simple technology, especially information technology, to disrupt them. And I don't just mean, in a mean way, like, hey, let's take them down. I mean, let's take a big chunk of the market from them, right? And make them adapt. Make them change and get better. And do it in a way that's hard for them to do, right? We'll make it hard. So, I don't have an official role as part of this contest. Last year I mentored a team. They had Picket Books. It was a peer-to-peer book sharing website idea that I concluded was disruptive. And I think that the judges did too. And they actually went on too to do the NVC competition, the new venture competition. And so a lot of people who do the elevator pitch competition then realize that, hey, their idea is pretty good. Maybe they should move on and actually do the full NVC competition too, right? So if that's what you're doing, right, and you've got a tech venture in mind, and you want somebody to be a mentor or something like that, you can call me. My name's Andre, and you can find me at Andre MTU. Just Google it, right? MTU Andre. I'm the only MTU Andre, so I show up first, right? So I have dibs on that particular search criteria. So I don't have to have a business card, because everybody knows who I am. MTU Andre. All right? And I'd be happy to work with any teams that are pursuing disruptive innovation. Not only because I think that you'll win the contest if you do this, because deep in the mind of the judge, when he's trying to figure out which business has the most potential, this disruptive element is actually gnawing at his mind, at his or her mind. All right? It's kind of like the little secret behind the facade. Okay? So, if you forget MTU Andre, you can get at me through Travis. And I strongly encourage you all to find businesses that are disruptive. And often, making something disruptive just means pivoting your idea. Okay? You might already have a pretty darn good idea. But if you just twist it in a certain way, then you can make it disruptive, which will increase your chances of success at building a business tremendously. All right? That's the message I have for you tonight. Thanks for giving me the time, Travis.
Does anybody have any questions?
Pretty comprehensive, right?
About my speed. I don't remember what movie it was that I see dead people. Does anybody remember that movie? Sixth Sense. Sixth Sense. I see data. Okay? I don't see dead people. Think of this. I see data. So what I like to do is visualize data and translate it in different ways to be able to look and see relationships. That's something that I really enjoy. In this case, I'm not talking about transforming data, but instead talking about, from my perspective of having been a judge in I guess maybe I've done two or three. You were a judge a couple of times, weren't you? A judge in the elevator pitch competition here in the fall, and sort of my perspective on how do you win. Because as was pointed out by Andre, I think, that you got to, or Michelle, somebody, now that I'm not paying attention, I'm not taking notes, that in order to win, you got to follow the rules. So you got to understand some of the rules. And in fact, the group that we just talked about from Travis that won the $40,000 of the business plan didn't score as well as some of the other teams in the elevator pitch because they missed some spots. Partially So they didn't get to some of the pieces that were the checkoff boxes. So just like you get measured all the time in all of your classes against rubrics and all the other stuff that you understand, you got to understand some of these rules. So Travis is finding me the rules so I can talk to, since I had made notes on mine. I brought the paper copy, but it would be a cheater who saw all of my notes. Then I might as well just give it to you. So this score sheet one. I guess really to start with, in my mind, and this is from working with entrepreneurs, much like Jim does in his team, is really trying to understand the bottom line question of who cares. And really the top two things in this elevator pitch piece are related to a customer being interested and an investor being interested. And this cannot be answered as everybody. Okay? As much as every entrepreneur, I've talked to over 200, love to say, oh, everybody's going to be interested in this. Sorry, not everybody is. In some cases, maybe the judges aren't even, because it's not within something that they're dealing with, that problem or that situation. So recognize that, because I may not be the same demographic. I have a dumb phone. My phone's not even on me right now. How many of you, your cell phone's on you and vibrating currently as I'm talking? Right? Okay, exactly. That's the thing. Very different demographic that you might be dealing with. Okay, so is this the one that I'm looking at? Yep, okay. So up at the top there, if you were the customer, would you buy it? Who cares? If you were the investor, would you invest? Who cares? So two different perspectives though, because back to Andre's point, investors are going to care about growth. Customers are going to care about, does it do something to meet a need? Which gets into the next one, which is question number one. For those of you that have suffered through a couple of my classes, Nate, currently suffering through, this is the gap analysis. What's the current state versus the desired state? If there is no gap, there is no need. Okay? They may not know that because they don't know that technology exists. I never heard of Trulium. So I've already got something interesting for me to check out today in terms of disruptive technology. So what are the customer's needs? And then following that up, how are they being met? Because if there is a need, there's either one of two things happening there. They're being met or they're not being met. In fact, they don't care. They're not doing anything about it. So a lot of these things you get excited about, there may not be a perceived need to actually fulfill that, to have somebody pay to have that happen. So that's really getting into the next question that I utilize actually out of the MISTDBC, which is an acronym you don't need to understand. On page 37, what do you really sell? This is not what an individual product. So I always carry my water bottle with me, and I've used this example in class before. I bought that water bottle, not for the water bottle itself, but what does that really give me? I refer to it as self-hydration. I can go fill it up with water and I can drink it. That's the need that was met. Yeah, it's a container, it's stainless steel, it doesn't stink after a while like some of the other ones do when you recycle the plastic ones. So that's really sort of this need, or what you're really doing is a service. People focus on the product, not the thing that they're helping somebody do, on either one of two measures. Pain or pleasure. As a business consultant, I sell on pain. I have no problem with that. Okay? A lot of you buy things based on pleasure. You understand what some of those are. Don't get, in that direction pleasure, but even just simple little things like some of the stuff you download that are fun games and so on and so forth. Are the customer needs currently being filled by the competition? So the incumbents that Andre talked about. Don't forget that this also falls into the category of doing nothing, that it is not being fulfilled. Or they're doing it themselves. I like to use the example of an automotive body repair shop. If you have a car and you go back into that concrete post, you have a broken taillight. You supposedly have a need. Well, do you go get it fixed? As a college student with limited funds that want to spend money on something else than your taillight, what do? You go get red tape. And you create a taillight that might be legal or not. You just did it yourself, okay? That's also something to be aware of in this. Product or service superior to the competition. Where I saw a lot of people falling down is what I refer to as the value proposition. What is it really worth to somebody compared to what they can already get? Is it willing to make the change? Is it disruptive enough that they're going to make that change over? Because there's a lot of overhead for those different things to be able to move that. This fifth one, team demonstrated profitability. I talked about, I see data. You got to include some data. You can't just go from, I've got this product and I estimate that 26 million people are going to buy it next week. There's got to be some connection. What's the big pie in the sky, right? We can't be everybody, so what becomes this group of people, and how does that then translate to sales? How does that then translate to the cost piece that's going to go with it? It doesn't have to be, and it can't be, because they got 3 minutes?
90 seconds.
90 seconds, whew. But something that's going to give me a sense of magnitude of how you got to that conclusion, okay? I apologize, I'm wandering, I will wander if I have room to do it. So some sort of data, something that's going to make me feel like I can believe you that you made this gap, this leap between nobody buying your product or service to a bunch of people buying your product or service. Do you know what funds they are seeking and how they plan to use those funds? That should be tied very closely back to this. Here, the investment piece, this has got to be captivating enough to change other alternatives. Right now, my highest priority personally is I want a new log splitter. So if you can convince me that my log splitter is worth less than my investment in your business, you're going to get points there. Okay? That log splitter saves me money because I go split my own wood and so on and so forth. But think about how that's going to play to somebody that has other alternatives to do something with their money. And I don't know, do you have nailed down the judges this year in terms of?
Just a couple of them are built.
Some of it might be just understanding what you're dealing with in terms of the broad spectrum of people. And then this last one, people have a tendency to focus on captivating. Yes, I might remember the fact that last year Ethan Dushinsky wore a plastic sled attached to a backpack. Very captivating. Do I actually remember what he talked about in terms of his business plan? Not really. Okay, but I do remember the one that went on. That was the Africa, the puncture-proof tire. Is that the one that they won the 40,000? I totally remember him taking and sticking a screwdriver through the tire. Okay, that was captivating. That was like, okay, that makes a lot of sense. You didn't have the business pieces. We didn't quite get through some of these other parts right here in terms of the profitability to have him really score well in that situation. So make sure that you've got some priority in terms of where your best stuff's going to be, but also making sure that you do. You got to check off some of these boxes in some way, shape, or form as you're going through this. So that's sort of my perspective as a judge, is don't spend too much time on fluff. 90 seconds, you still got to get some substance in there. So how can you get that substance in nice enough buckets or things that somebody can take away from that without necessarily going away with just simply remembering duct tape and a plastic sled attached to a backpack from last year. Okay? Questions?
What do the best teams do that other teams don't do?
They are very concise and they are focused on the things that need to be addressed. Not a lot of upfront, taking a while to get into it, because 90 seconds is a very short period of time. They really get right into the heart of things and set you up to lead you through this stuff that you want to care. Like my boss used to say at IBM, I want that next slide to